Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hakuouki Demon of the Fleeting Blossom. We are on Hajime Saito's route. I believe we're trying to find our way to the rest of the Shinsengumi, but we have run into Kazuma, which is really bad because Saito had a hard time holding his own against Amagiri, and Kazuma's supposed to be many times stronger. So let's see how that pans out. You can just sit back, relax, and let me read you a story. Amagiri had said that Kazuma was even more powerful than he was, and Saito had been clearly outmatched by Amagiri. Was there even the most remote possibility of victory against Kazuma? Saito made the first move. Is that wise? His sword raised high over his head, he charged forward and brought it down toward Kazuma's right shoulder. But when the sword reached its destination, Kazuma was simply gone. Saito snapped his head around, looking for his opponent.
Behind you.
A silver blade flew through the night toward Saito. I heard the horrible wet sound of a blade passing through flesh, and blood splattered to the ground. Saito grunted and swung his sword back toward Kazuma, but again he cut only air. The demon darted around him, his sword glistening with gore. More blood dripped to the forest floor. Saito ground his teeth, his eyes wide with pain, but he kept his feet and tried desperately to match Kazuma's attack. But his foe was too fast, and as soon as Saito had found him, he had disappeared or struck again. The night air was filled with grunts of pain and the sickening hiss of steel through flesh. Every inch of his clothes was soaked in blood, but still Saito glared at Kazuma with fiery hatred.
You bastard! How dare you! We'll avenge our captain! Take this!
Two of the men who'd been watching leapt toward Kazuma as Saito fell back.
No, you won't be.
Kazuma's sword shimmered, and the two men fell to the ground. He didn't even blink. His skill with the sword was nothing short of superhuman. His blade moved too fast for the eye to catch.
2 against 1, and this was the best I could manage. Humans are such fragile creatures. What? Is something wrong? Do you hate me, perhaps?
Saito said nothing, and tightened his blood-stained hands around the hilt of his sword. He rushed toward Kazuma, all his strength behind this desperate attack. Kazuma's blade sliced across his body, and blood rained down onto his shirt. Oh, Saito. He still stood, but blood loss and fatigue were taking their toll, and even I could see he was getting slower. Nonetheless, his hands stayed clasped around his sword, even if his arms could no longer lift it. Even against Amagiri, he hadn't been beaten so completely. Saito, please, you have to stop! I'll just go with him, then he'll leave you and the men alone. Saito didn't turn around.
What's this? The female demon is offering to help you. Perhaps you should take her up on that. You can struggle as much as you like, but you know as well as I do that you can't win. I know you're a fool, but you're not that much of one. If you just run away now and keep your mouth shut, then no one will know. All you have to do is tell your superiors that you were guarding the female demon, but you were overpowered and she was taken away.
I looked up at Saito, my eyes pleading. Kazuma's words were hardly subtle, but if Saito did leave me behind, I was sure no one would blame him.
Someone would know. I would know. I don't surrender, not to you, not to anyone. I will protect her and my men, with my hands, and with this sword. Protect them. Your body is broken. You can barely stand. This is just... I don't have the words. You can't win, we both know it. I'm giving you a chance to escape with your pitiful life, and you should take it.
But Saito made no move to leave. His eyes burned with fury, even as the rest of him bled and slumped.
If I run now, then I betray something that's important.
Ah, why does Kazuma look crazy all of a sudden? I've never seen him look crazy like this.
Oh, this is too rich. You can betray something that important, huh?
He laughed as he drove his sword into Saito's body.
What is this important thing? Some pathetic excuse for pride? Whatever it is that you call honor? Answer me, human. What could possibly be important to something as worthless and base as a creature like you?
He no longer had even the strength to lift his arms and block Kazuma's attacks. No, please stop! Never before had I seen something so gruesome and heart-wrenching. With a ragged sigh, Saito's body tilted slowly, then crumpled to the ground. For a moment, I thought he was dead, until his chest slowly rose and fell.
Slicing up a corpse isn't much fun, is it?
He smiled cruelly and ground his foot into Saito's head. That's enough!
Saito, do you want to beat me? Do you want to protect whatever it is that's so important?
Don't tell me Kazuma was going to give him the water of life. He couldn't even speak anymore. It was a titanic effort simply to breathe, but the rage in his eyes was as strong as ever.
Very well. I will give you an opportunity.
With a cruel smirk, he reached into his shirt and drew something out. I could scarcely believe it.
This is the water of life that Kodo prepared for me. With a little of this, even an insect such as you might be able to fight a little better.
Kodo? Did that mean my father was working with Kazuma? He released the bottle and it landed with a soft thump in front of Saito.
What will you do? Will you drink this poison and become an abomination so that you can fight me? Or will you choose to keep your pathetic human pride and die? The decision is yours. I won't force you.
His chest worked harder, laboring to push breath into his broken body. Seconds seemed to stretch into hours as he stared at the bottle, his mind working furiously. And then his arm moved. Saito, no! But it was already too late. I watched as the wounds Kazuma's sword had left, and Saito climbed to his feet whole. He stood before me, his hair silver white, and his eyes blood red, the only signs of his old wound, the dried blood on his clothes.
So, you would drink the water of life just to defeat me? How foolish of me, to think you had any pride. The mere chance of victory against me is enough reason to turn yourself into an abomination. Pathetic.
Saito's expression didn't change. With a slow hand, he wiped the dried blood from his face, and when he spoke, his voice was quiet and calm.
Say what you wish. I don't expect you to understand my sense of honor. If the Shinsengumi have chosen to protect her, then I will carry out that duty, even if the cost of my success is my own humanity.
He lifted his sword to a fighting stance. That sort of attitude was just what I would have expected from Saito, but for him to become a fury simply because the Shinsengumi had ordered him to protect me was horrible. I had turned him into a monster.
So, you'll throw your life away for the whims of the Shinsengumi. Wonderful. You can't even think for yourself, can you? You are nothing more than a puppet. Perhaps I am. It doesn't matter. I can think of no better way to give my life than in service of what I believe in. What you believe in? You mean those simple-minded ronin, so desperate to recapture the glory days they'll go down with, that laughable excuse for a shogun? What?
Saito threw himself toward Kazuma, in the same breath his words almost a snarl. The demon deflected his attack with ease and smiled back.
Shall I use small words for you? The shogunate is a rotting corpse, and this war will wash away the maggots like you that insist on clinging to its putrid flesh. That sword you carry no longer has any meaning. Today's world has no place for that samurai nonsense about pride and honor. Shut up!
He struck again and again, and it seemed that the water of life had closed the gap between them, at least somewhat. Bit by bit, Saito's well-aimed blows drove Kazuma back. The tension between them was almost palpable, like the air before a thunderstorm. From time to time, Kazuma landed a blow of his own on Saito, but those wounds closed almost immediately thanks to his new fury blood.
Excellent. I was worried I might not enjoy myself, But it seems you'll provide enough of a challenge after all. No more babying you then. Are you ready to die, you worthless? Stop.
A familiar voice echoed through the night.
Amagiri, what are you doing here? Have you come to spoil my fun? The Satsuma domain requires your presence. You must go. Mere humans dare to order me around. If they want me, they may come and get me.
Amagiri didn't so much as blink.
And be that as it may, you should return. We can ill afford a dispute with the Satsuma domain now. You know that as well as I. Damn them.
He snarled and slammed his sword back into its scabbard.
It looks like I don't have time to put you down right now. I'll leave my wife in your hands for now.
Oh, I'm your wife now, huh? A little presumptuous.
I'm sure you'll be utterly useless either way, but do try to keep her alive. Someday soon I'll be back for her. I hope you're looking forward to it as much as I am.
And with that, he was gone. Nothing to say for yourself, Amagiri? Thank you, though. I appreciate you stopping the fight. Amagiri's face told me he wanted to say something, but instead he turned and disappeared into the forest after his companion, and once again we were plunged into silence. For several long moments, Saito stared after the two demons, saying nothing, though I could sense a tumult of emotion behind that placid face. He betrayed none of what it might be. With a shrug, his white hair melted back to its original color, and the red went out of his eyes.
We need to be off the mountain by morning, or we'll run into more trouble.
His voice and manner were as they had always been, suggesting nothing of the ordeal he'd just been through. I felt my heart rise in my throat, and I turned away before the sight of him made me burst into tears. Right. San and Heisuke had already given up their humanity to become furies, and now Saito would join them. My heart felt like lead. Sometime later, we finally arrived at Osaka Castle. So long as we were at the castle, we weren't likely to run into enemy patrols, and for that I was grateful. Saito, how are you feeling?
What do you mean?
Well, I realized suddenly that I couldn't talk about the Furies openly with so many people around. Instead, I simply mumbled, at a loss for words. He must have guessed what I was getting at, and looked at me for a second or two before responding.
At the moment, I feel fine.
Really? But Heisuke and San had said that it was hard for them to be up during the day.
My condition is none of your concern.
I beg to differ. We are courting you after all. But then again, if Saito got the version from Kodo, he might have one of the updated, more refined versions of it.
I was the one who drank the water of life, not you.
That's true, but there wasn't much I could say in response to that. Perhaps he wasn't feeling anything yet because he had only just been turned into a Fury. He might well end up suffering the same painful symptoms in the future. Still, even if he did, I had no doubt that he would remain as stoic as ever and insist that everything was fine. Even the mere thought of it made my heart feel as if it would break.
These men seem excited. Are they anxious for war?
I wonder. The atmosphere in the castle was certainly restless, even as I watched wounded soldiers being carried in.
Hey! Is that you, Saito?
That voice!
It is! Damn, you're alive! Not exactly a welcome there, Shinpachi.
Nagakura! Harada! You're both safe!
Damn right we are. You really think that bunch of chumps is enough to take down Shinpachi Nagakura?
Nope, I knew they wouldn't be. He grinned.
And look at this. Not even a scratch on you, Saito. Just what do you expect from a master swordsman, huh?
Saito's mouth thinned, but he said nothing. There was no way Nagakura could have known the true reason for Saito's apparent good health. For a man like Saito, someone with absolute faith in his sword and his skill, to admit weakness and reach for the water of life, I could only imagine how torturous it must have been.
Captain, Saito, Yukimura, you're safe.
Oh!
Come on, Kai. She said Saito was with her. Did you really think she wouldn't make it back? Right, of course. I'm still glad to see them, though.
He quickly scrubbed tears from his eyes with a fist and smiled at us. Aww. So emotional. Oh, what happened to Yamazaki and Inoue?
Oh.
His expression suddenly turned grim. Were they hurt? Harada spoke up, but his voice was strained.
Yamazaki was hurt pretty bad by a gunshot. Matsumoto's taking care of him at the moment, but he's got a bad fever and he's stuck in bed for now. To be honest, we don't know if he's gonna make it.
Oh no. What about Inoue? He's alright, isn't he? I felt my stomach clench with dread. Inoue had to be alright. He had to. They were supposed to laugh it off, to smile and reassure me and say that Inoue was fine, but they didn't. It was Nagakura who finally spoke.
Gen's dead. He was shot. Probably died almost instantly.
No! My throat tightened, and I could feel tears rising to my eyes. Oh.
I know so. A samurai never goes back on his word, no matter what happens. Nagakura and Shimada knew that when they volunteered for the mission. That sort of honor is a rare thing these days. But they have it. So does Saito. A samurai, no, a man, would never do such a thing as make a girl sad. And those men are true samurai. They have the skill, the honor, and the personal fortitude to make it back. You don't need to worry about them.
But you, on the other hand... Inoue, I thought a samurai would never do anything like make a girl sad. So why? Why did you die? I swallowed and my throat stung. It was horrible enough to think of the pain he'd suffered from his bullet wound, but even worse was the despair he must have felt as he realized his life was coming to an end.
We need to get back to the rest of the guys. All the survivors should have gathered by now.
Right, okay. I wiped my tears away and followed.
Saito, Yukimura, good to see you're alive. I apologize for worrying you, Commander.
He bowed politely.
This is all the survivors, then? Yeah, I guess you could say that. Alright, get ready for a Hopeless Tactics meeting.
Well, that sounds really, optimistic. Hopeless?
I remember how optimism felt. You better hold on to that feeling, Chizuru. It isn't gonna last much longer. Shut up, Senpachi.
Wait, what do you mean?
No point hiding it, I guess. The shogunate's in a bad place this time.
Huh? Saito had told me that the shogunate forces number nearly 15,000 men, and the Satsuma and Choshu and their allies commanded, at most, 5,000. Even I knew 3 to 1 was good odds, so how would the shogunate end up in trouble?
Lost a lot of men against the Choshu and Satsuma. Then, most of our allies refused to send us reinforcements, gave us some bullcrap about staying neutral, even though Owari, the family domain, are twiddling their thumbs and claiming neutrality. How the hell can you say you're neutral when there's a war going on? At least have the balls to just come out and say you'd rather watch the shogunate eat dirt. Did we really lose that many men? Bastard's got some sort of vicious new gun. Got a longer range than anything we've seen before, and it fires so damn fast we can't charge in while they're reloading. Cut our guys down like grass. Guess swords don't have a place in war anymore.
Saito looked down and said nothing. He'd built his life around the sword, and now, just like that, it meant nothing.
It gets worse. Our enemies are armed with silver bullets.
Silver bullets? Why?
It's a way to countermeasure the Fury Core. Someone on the other side knows a lot about Furies. Probably more than we do. A Fury can heal from nearly any injury, but silver bullets seem to somehow negate this. Our advantage comes from our ability to recover quickly, as much as from our superhuman strength. Without our speedy healing, we're a little different from a normal human. We didn't anticipate silver bullets and lost most of the Fury Core in the last battle. We're not sure what to do next.
That was when Saito finally spoke.
Commander, there's something I need to tell you. What?
Saito looked straight into the commander's eyes and spoke in a calm, level voice.
I drank the water of life. I am now a Fury. What?
Every face in the room turned to Saito, shocked.
Why the hell did you do that? I had no choice, but I do not regret my decision.
Hijikata was silent for several moments.
You too, huh?
That was all he said.
You have made an excellent decision, Saito. Welcome to the fold.
Something about Sanen's smile made my skin crawl. Heisuke, on the other hand, looked away, his eyes sad.
Done catching up? Good. Get your stuff together. Looks like we're being put on a boat for Edo.
What? Why Edo? Their faces fell when I spoke.
Our Supreme Commander, in his infinite wisdom and compassion, has abandoned his men and left them to fight and die on his behalf. He ran back to Edo a long time ago.
Is this that boat trip that Yamazaki dies during?
I just about lost my crap when I heard about that. I mean, come on. Have you ever heard of a war where the guy who started it runs away as soon as people start fighting? Sure makes our future an exciting place though, doesn't it?
Oh no. Inoue had died, and Yamazaki had been wounded. Though they were the only ones I knew, I had little doubt that many other men had fought for the shogun and been wounded or killed. And instead of staying to support his army, he'd abandoned them to their fate and been the first to run to safety in Edo. It was awful.
The shogun abandoned us.
He repeated the words to himself, almost as if he couldn't quite bring himself to believe them. Hijikata shrugged.
I figure he's got his reasons. Politics isn't our problem. All we have to do is fight with honor. Yes, you're right.
He nodded. His face was placid as ever, but in his eyes I could see defeat and despair. January 8th. We retreated by ship from Osaka Bay. Yamazaki's wounds didn't heal properly. He grew worse during the voyage, and eventually passed away. Oh, Yamazaki. He was buried at sea. Kondo's shoulder hadn't fully healed, and he got out of bed to read a memorial passage in memory of Yamazaki and his service to the Shinsengumi. Tears rolled down his face as he read. Inoue was dead, and now so was Yamazaki. Our friends were dying off one by one. Saito still had his life, but he'd been forced to sacrifice his humanity for it. And my own father had created the water of life that had turned him into a fury. There had been sadness enough already, but the lead in my stomach said that it was only beginning. Thus is the tragedy of the history of the Shinsengumi. Chapter 5. February 1868. We arrived safely in Edo, and were ordered to set up our new headquarters in one of the Hatamoto mansions. We heard rumors everywhere about the Satsuma Choshu alliance. I tried not to think about our loss at Toba Fushimi, but the events insisted on replaying themselves in my mind. Heisuke and Sanen had been busy working to strengthen the Fury Core after its near destruction. I wasn't sure how they planned to strengthen it, but I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to. Yeah, that sounds pretty shady. More frustrating, however, was that I felt utterly useless. One day, just past the middle of January, I heard voices carried by the wind, and they slipped through the gaps in the door. They were chanting, "Isn't it great?" over and over. We'd been in Edo for nearly a month by then. I gazed out the window and thought back on what had happened.
Man, they're making a racket out there. Isn't it great? Isn't it great? It doesn't sound like they really mean it, you know? Well, I guess they probably just want to forget about all their problems and dance like maniacs. After all, who knows when the rebels might attack? You want to go dance too, Sano? You can draw faces on your stomach around the scar. I'm sure you'll get all sorts of looks from the ladies. Bastard, you must really want to pay for your own booze today, just when I was thinking of treating you too. Whoa, calm down. I was just kidding around, Sano. You know me. I'm just a crazy Edo boy. I say all sorts of crap I don't mean.
Are you guys going out?
Yup, I don't heal well when I'm locked up with a bunch of men. If Hijikata comes back, you think you could just tell him I'm, attending my parents' funeral or something?
That's a terrible excuse. Okay.
Alright, Chizuru. Think you can keep an eye on this place for us while we're gone?
Sure, have fun. No problem, I can hold down the fort against the demons if they show up anytime. They walked out the door together, laughing and joking. Lately, they've been spending a lot of time out drinking or visiting Yoshiwara. They acted cheerful, but I knew the loss of Tobo Fushimi had hurt them as much as everyone else. Kondo's shoulder had finally healed, so he was up and about again, but Kondo and Hijikata's work had developed into negotiations with the shogunate's top ministers, which meant that the busiest person in the mansion was usually... Saito?
Chizuru, do you know where the ink and inkstone are?
Hijikata's room, I think, but he'll probably get angry if you use it without his permission. What, is there only one in the whole place? Hold on a moment. I think maybe we have another set. Let me take a look.
Very well. The sooner the better.
Is this all right?
Yes.
He nodded briefly, took the inkstone, and immediately began scraping away at it. Next to him sat a massive pile of papers that had yet to be bound and filed. Is there anything I can do to help?
No, not particularly.
But this is so much for you to do all on your own.
I have it under control. You need only worry about your own tasks.
But I've already done everything I need to. I can help you. Please, just give me something to do. He turned around and looked at me, his eyes flat and unreadable. After a second or two of thought, he spoke.
Fine. Will you help me bind these then? You can find string and an awl over there.
Yes. I gathered my tools and several sheafs of paper and set to binding them. The sound of Saito scraping the inkstone drifted softly through the quiet room, accompanied by the quiet rustle of paper. It had been more than a month since he'd become a fury, which meant being up and about during the day should have been painful. So far, however, he showed no signs of even discomfort. He seemed so normal, I almost felt as if watching him become a fury had been some horrible nightmare. But it wasn't. He'd become a monster that night. I'd seen it with my own eyes. Ouch! What, did I poke myself with the awl?
What's wrong?
Oh, I just poked my finger with the awl. It's not a big deal. I'll be fine in a moment.
Your finger...
His expression had changed. His eyes were fixed on the blood beaded on my fingertip. Oh, crap. The color drained from his face, and his eyes looked strange. Saito? He shuddered and shook his head, then turned away. To a bystander, it might have looked like he'd returned to his work as if nothing had happened, but his forehead was slick with sweat. His reaction was not that of a normal, healthy person. My stomach dropped as I understood what it was. Saito? Do you want blood? His shoulders twitched. I knew it. You need blood, don't you? It may even be stronger because you're working during the day. Why are you pushing yourself like this? If you had just slept during the day and got up at night like Sanan and Heisuke, then it wouldn't be this bad. He turned and glared at me. Alright, we'll save the rest of this argument for the next episode. Come on, you know he's got his pride to uphold. Alright, well, I hope to see you in the next video or some of my other ones, and I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, and shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye-bye, everybody.